Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on My FM 101.3 in the Holliston Hub with your host, Jay Marsden. He's from the Marsden Law Group. I'm John Droin from Main Effort Financial. That's Tom Harmon. He is from the Holliston Hub. Hold on. I'm still the intro. And you're watching and listening to, of course, Money and the Law, which is where we talk about money and we talk about the law. And we'll just leave it at that. And I'll now turn over to my co-host and dear friend, none other than, and my favorite attorney, Jay Marsden.
Good morning. Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm great. And the reason that I'm enthusiastic, and Tom, of course, hello, how are you? I'm enthusiastic is because I actually listened to our show this past Saturday.
Excellent.
It was a previously, well, they're all previously recorded. It was a previous
Did you learn some things?
Well, I did, right? And this was the show, and I was, the reason I listened to it is because it was the one where I referred to my daughter, and she was like, I told her, and I was like, hey, we talked about you on the show, and she's like, what? She's like, I wanted to let me read, blah, blah. So she wanted to see it and hear it. So I wanted to listen to it first to make sure I didn't like offend her, because I don't really recall what I everything that I said, but everything was good. And you know what? It was a great show, and you sound great. And Ray's always worried about the levels.
I know he's in here fiddling with things. There's all these buttons on some board over here that he's raising and lowering, and I don't really know what's going on.
It sounds it sounds good. The topic of conversation was the one where we like how you as a person kind of can make your surroundings better, make your environment better, make your team better. Yep. And it was an inspiration. And I was almost like, wow. You know what? This Money in the Law thing, I should listen to this. Yeah. I should tune in on Saturday. Yeah. And so should you.
There's some teachings going on there. Yes.
There's some pearls of wisdom that come out. All right. So how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Fine.
You're dressed nicely today.
I'm classing it up a little bit today. I got a work event later tonight, so we were joking before you came in here. I had to put on an actual suit today. Usually I'm a little more casual. And I don't think I've put a suit on in quite some time. So,
well, what comes with the suit is, of course, the shoes. The shoes that finish it up, right?
Yeah, which feel like walking around with my feet wrapped in basically barbed wire, because I've been basically flip flop and barefooting it for the last couple of months. So now that summer's over and that's all changing.
And summer is, in fact, over, unfortunately.
It's coming to a close. It is.
And it's funny. I had a meeting yesterday with one of my clients who's retired. He's at a medical retirement from the police force. And I tell you what, for a 56-year-old guy who's medically retired, he looks great.
I'm sure he does. Sure he do.
You really look like the opposite of unhealthy.
Yes, that's
right.
It
was an orthopedic injury,
right?
Yeah, so and he's a police officer. You got to be able to.
Yeah, there's no desk jobs in that. I mean, there's no paperwork or anything like that for that job. So he definitely needs
nothing.
Yeah. That's right.
Anyway, the way it worked out is he is now retired.
Sure.
Yeah, and he was telling me about I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And I was like, wow, he's like, yeah, I don't really need any money. I'm like, imagine being in that spot right there, no money needed. And I said, well, there's always golf, because golf is always and he goes, it's funny you say that. I go, but you've been hurt. And he goes, no. He goes, you know what? I played the other day, and it didn't hurt so much. And I'm like, well, good on you.
Yep. That's right.
Anyway.
We were talking about that before. It's you'll never perfect it. Constantly working at it. I never understood it as a younger man. And then now playing a little bit more golf with some buddies. And once you wrap your head around the idea that you're never going to perfect it, it gives you a different appreciation of the effort, and just say to yourself, you know what? There's always something to work on.
You know what? I'm glad you guys brought up golf, because I just played some golf.
Oh boy, This is what this whole thing. See what this is all about, Tom?
I mean, see what this is all about
driving over here the whole time. All he's thinking to himself is, how do I turn this conversation to golf? So then I can talk about his favorite subject, himself.
Now that you brought it up, right?
Yep.
Oh my God! I just feel like I was fly fishing, right, in a salmon river. Whoa! I got a big one right there.
Got him. Just land him. Get him in the boat. Get him in the boat.
Get in the boat.
Get him in the boat.
Yeah, so I played golf.
Oh, great, tell us.
Yeah, and
hole by hole, please.
This is again, I played golf. So put it this way: the last time I played golf, it was a Connecticut tournament with my buddies, and this is my high school tournament. So the first one was in the first weekend of August, and then this one was just this past weekend. And so the guy I played with, who happens to be the best golfer I know, and he's like the president of the country club.
Sure.
And I said, Jeff, I go, I go, how many, and he played with me in August. I go, how many rounds have you played since the last time? But he goes, I don't know, 15, 20?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I go, yeah, I mean, I played 0.
Yeah.
So I'm right, I'm in the next hole.
Yeah, you're into it, right? Some guys are playing every day. Yep.
So anyway, this is what I wanted to say. When are we going to play? Because I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
I'm getting my. I called your guy, but he wasn't in. So I'm like, I'm not going to go unless your guy's in, right?
Right.
So I'm going to get some. I'm getting new clubs. I'm getting some fitted, just like I was instructed to do.
Yep.
Because I heard that's going to make you a better golfer.
Okay.
And that's the rumor.
Yep.
And so I'm going to get my new clubs and. Right. Let's go.
We'll pick a day. 9 holes at Pinecrest.
9 holes. I mean, 9 holes. I mean, I'm a big hitter. I can hit. Now, does it go? Which way does it go? I don't know.
Oh God.
I'm not a big hitter. I just tell myself I am. I'm so not good.
All right, that's good. That's perfect. That's good.
But in my round, I have 3, 4 good shots.
And that's enough. That's enough to keep you coming back.
That's all I need.
Right?
That's all I need.
That's it.
And to the point where my buddy Jeff, I think, and of course in the scramble I'll always hit first because
Yep. Let's get yours out of the way.
So right.
Yep.
So if I swear to God, I think 3 times he shanked his shot on purpose just to play my ball.
There you go.
And I'm like, you did that on purpose. He goes, no, I just missed it.
Yep.
I'm like, that's weird.
For the first time all day.
That's weird. As opposed to like when he's the last one, no one's on the green. And he hits one, and then he hits one, and we can't really see the green. And this is his course, right? This is the country club that we play, and this is the one that he's part of. So he hits it on the green, and then my other buddy's like, I'm going to hit another one. I got a mulligan. I'm going to hit another one. And he looks at me, he goes, there's really no reason. And we're in the cart. He doesn't have to. He goes, there's really no reason to do that. And I go, how do you know? He goes, I hit it well.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I hit it well. Sure enough, we come up the hill, and he's foot and a half. And I'm like, how did you know that? He goes,
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've done that.
It's not my first rodeo.
It's not my first chip to the green.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm excited about. I'm back in golf mode.
All right, he's back. He's back, Tom.
Tom's like, good. I'm gonna bring $100 bills. That's because you know what? I'm gonna massacre
I'm buying
you
a
guys.
cape house.
Seriously.
I'm gonna have you two fund it.
Here's some money in the law for you.
Yeah, that's right. I'll take your money.
It's called I'll take your, and here's the law of God.
Yeah,
here's the law of gravity.
Let me lay down the law here and take your money. How about
Let me lay down the law here. Oh wow.
We'll wear our new T-shirts.
Wow, you're in the sand trap. That's fun. That's fun for you.
Yeah. You like the beach, right? Bring all the jokes.
I'm going to write them down. All right, so what are we talking about today? I mean, I know what I want to talk about.
I know what you want to talk about.
But what do you got today?
I was going to pull something out of the old probate trick bag.
The probate. I love the probate trick bag.
And I was going to talk about something that came up last week at the office. Somebody called, and they wanted to they were trying to understand how a family member may have made off with most. That's even the right word too. Made off with most, if not all, of mom's money, unbeknownst to them. And so they were trying to figure out. The will says this. How much money? Where did it go? There was property involved, and so we were going to talk about the differences between sort of what mom's estate looks like and what mom's estate ultimately ends up as, because somebody get in there and played a little monkey business.
So I wrote down the title of the show that'll be used.
That's the title right there.
I didn't get all of that.
Okay.
Is how did my siblings steal all mom's money?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Sure.
So there you go. All right, so that's it. That's what we're going to talk about. The other thing I was going to talk about was just something that was boring and
related to this.
Yeah, related to this. My favorite Western.
All right.
And the only reason I'm saying this, and I'm just indulge me for one second.
Hear me out.
The only reason, because I was thinking of this because I had a change. I've had my favorite movies list. It's been going for over 20 years, and it hasn't changed. Like all of my favorite action movie, my favorite. Although when the Marvel, are you a Marvel guy? Yeah, and you're not, right? Yeah, so I am, and the reason is because I was a comic book kid, right?
Understood. Yeah.
So and I was, back then I'm like, wow, wouldn't this be great stuff for like a movie?
Back then you were saying that?
Well, I was saying I just wanted
as a
more.
12-year-old, you were saying, wouldn't it be great if they made this a live-action movie?
If there was, I would watch it. Right?
I'm just
I mean, I would watch the Spider-Man cartoons, like like it was magic, right?
I'm just suggesting this transition to real.
My point is this: once the Marvel movies came out, I became a big fan of like just the whole series and all this. So they kind of moved in somewhere on the list. Yep. But before that, it was like
they could be their own category.
I tried to put them in the category when I prepped for the show today, which no one else did. But I did
all week.
When I prepped it as science fiction / fantasy. So that's probably that.
Sci-fi, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that was, and before them, it was kind of Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter's a big Harry Potter fan, and then before him, it was Star Wars. So that was like that category. But the other categories, they were
pretty consistent.
But this past 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, my Westerns flip-flopped. Like one moved above the other.
Whoa, that's big news.
So my favorite Western of all time up to this point was the movie, what was it? What do you got?
I was going to guess Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, no. That Unforgiven is number 3. It's a fantastic movie. Great.
Sure.
Yeah, one of my could be my favorite Clint Eastwood movie of all time.
Understood.
But my favorite movie, my favorite Western was Tombstone.
Okay.
So Tombstone, classic. It was the greatest. It was Val Kilmer's greatest performance, right? And then it had a whole laundry list of all the others.
All the great people,
and the bad guys were good, right?
Yep.
And then my second one was the remake of 3:10 to Yuma.
Okay.
With Christian Bale and Russell Crowe.
Fantastic. Yep.
Who they don't make bad movies.
No.
So on Netflix, and for those of you who haven't watched this movie and reviewed it in a while, Netflix. 3:10 to Yuma came back on. It was back on Netflix.
Yes, I believe I saw it.
And I think, and I reviewed it again, and 3:10 to Yuma passed Tombstone. And I can't believe I'm saying it out loud because I love Tombstone.
Yep.
But that became Russell Crowe. It's Russell Crowe's and Christian Bale's best movie.
Wow.
Like best movie. Better than Gladiator. Better than all the Christian Bale whatever movies he was in. All of the million of them.
Yep.
Their best movie.
Wow.
Three, and you know why?
You heard it here, folks.
And you know why? Because the sign of a good movie is when you like the bad guy.
Sure.
Right. So like think about the original Point Break with Swayze.
Yep.
Like you love him. Like you're like, oh, you're rooting for him. You're rooting for him at the end. You're like, no, let him surf the big crazy wave.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So anyway, that was the inspiration. So we're going to talk about the probate thing and mom and stealing the money. That's good stuff too. But what I'm leaving you with today, as my aside, is. On Netflix, watch 3:10, the remake of 3:10.
Make it a point.
Make it a point. You won't regret it because it's classic. It's classic. I mean, and there's so many great lines from that movie, like the.
Well, don't give them away. You got to watch the movie. Let people watch the movie.
Okay. All right, I'll leave it at that. All right. So we're going to talk about thievery. Well, I mean, there's stealing, cattle stealing.
You know what? The theme today is crime. So we'll weave in
some
3:10
West
to Yuma
crime.
into the stealing of your parents' money or your siblings' money or whatever you want to call it.
We'll
weave that all together.
Would have been done a little bit differently back in the old days.
That's right.
When arch villain Ben Wade shows up.
It would have just taken the money a little
and
differently.
His guys,
That's right.
But it's still, at the end of the day,
if you hear,
you've been robbed.
If you hear horse steps, you'll know something's up.
If you hear cattle coming to block your wagon,
That's right. You'll know something's up.
You might want to call the Pinkertons because they're not going to do anything. All right. So don't go away. We're going to be back. We're going to be right back talking about probate and how your sibling
probate monkey business within the family
probate,
and
right?
You 3:10 to Yuma.
Some probate 3-card Monty that your brother was playing when you weren't looking. That's why you need a good lawyer.
Weave this all together.
That's why you
weave it all together.
That's why your lawyer comes in.
All right.
Don't go away.
Don't go away. And we're back, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tom's on the bag today. And we are sitting here talking about this crazy cosmic connection between probate and misappropriation of funds and John's Netflix hit list that he's working off of.
Just a recommendation.
3:10 to Yuma.
Just a recommendation.
I don't know how they go together, but apparently they do.
They don't.
They do not. They do
They
not.
don't. But you know what? I will, within the next 40 minutes,
sure, you'll find
somehow it's going to connect. Not me, maybe you.
No,
I don't know.
Maybe we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
All right.
So the reason for the topic was last couple of weeks. This has happened. Clients have come in and they've said something along the lines of, something happened to my mom, something happened to my dad, whatever, and they have a will, and the will says that everything is supposed to be split evenly amongst all the kids, and mom and dad really wanted to make sure that everything went the way that everybody's treated equally, blah 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 blah. And what we've discovered is there doesn't appear to be anything. And
what do you mean there doesn't appear to be anything?
There
doesn't appear to be a will?
Well, there's a will, but there doesn't appear to be any
there a way?
assets attached to the will. This is what the discussion is. This is what the discussion
Tommy
is.
got the joke.
Right?
Come on.
What?
Seriously. I go, you said, there's a will. And I go, is there a way? And you were like, just
roll
right
through.
through.
I know.
That's okay.
So that was the issue. The issue was, my parents either had a piece of real estate, which is a little bit easier to track down, but they might have sold a house, and so we know there was money. The conversation usually goes something like, we know there was money, so we just don't understand why our brother or our sister is telling us that there's no money, and how do we find out, and how do we kind of wrap our head around this, right?
Can I ask a
Please,
question?
go ahead.
So in these kind of circumstances, is normally this one sibling in question, are they like the executor of said
Sometimes,
plan?
sometimes, not always, not always. And that's part of the issue, right? The sibling who is the executor, let's say, might be calling me to say, I have a will, I have a job according to this will, but what I'm discovering is that there's not any money, and I can't understand why there's no money. My parents did this will, and I don't understand why there's nothing that the will that kind of the will applies to.
and the subtext is, of course, where's my money?
That's exactly the subject.
Right, and whatever.
Well,
but it's a reasonable question.
Well, and in many cases, it's not even so much where's my money per se. In many cases, it's just, I just would like to understand
where's damn money?
What happened. I just want to understand what happened. Like, how would this come together, right? And so what we usually see is there's a couple of things going on. So, people will come into the office and they'll say, I'm doing a will and I want to make sure that everybody's treated the same. Great, everyone's on board with that idea to a certain extent. But then what happens is then they leave the office and then they go out and they start doing individual things, right?
Right.
And the individual things are things like, I have a retirement account, 401k, IRA, and I have named beneficiaries on that account. That has nothing to do with your will. Nothing to do with your will, okay?
It's like, this is probate.
Yep.
And I'm holding a container, and that's outside of probate.
That is
right?
outside
It's not in
of
here.
probate.
It's not in there. It's not in probate.
Yeah,
You
for
can
the
see
most
it
part,
on
it is-
TV.
that's right. That's right.
There's no 401k in there.
Nope,
There's
nothing.
no IRA in there. There's no life insurance in there. No.
Empty.
You know
Empty.
why? It's outside of probate.
Outside of probate. Outside of probate. So the idea is that, well, you know what? Well, hold on. Who are the beneficiaries of the retirement account, right? And if it's all the kids equally, just like it says in the will, everybody's good, right? Everything makes sense. Everybody's happy.
But that's a good point. That's an important thing to understand, because a lot of people, they think, right, they're like, I did my will, and there you go. The will's done, and now, because I did it, and it's, we've talked about this many times on the show, where people, it's like this Herculean effort to get to you and say, okay, I'm going to do my estate plan. I got my head around it. I'm ready. I know what I want to do, and then I do it, and it's like, ugh. Like that is one huge thing that I was so like
off my plate. Everyone's treated equally. I feel good. Everybody's happy.
And I'm psyched, right? And I did it. I'm in sound mind and body, and I feel good. And you feel as you should. You feel good about it. You're like, all right, yep, I'm done with that. One less thing to worry about. And I've been worrying about it for most people. Like it takes them a while to get to that spot, right?
Yep.
So I've done it, and I'm like, oh, right. And this, but understanding that all of those other things that you had mentioned before. They don't, just because I said I want everybody, in my will it says everybody gets, 33, 33, 33, or 34, depends on what.
Somebody's got to be the favorite.
Somebody's got to be the favorite.
Right. Yep.
And there you go, and then and then I'm done, but that's not necessarily the whole story.
Well, no, because you did the will. Okay, great. That we talked about this in the show. The will only applies to things that you own in your name alone at your death. That don't normally come with beneficiary designations like IRAs and life insurance.
And you don't when you're doing the probate plan, you don't explain that to them, right? You don't clear that up. You don't say that clearly and articulately, so they understand.
That's exactly what we say.
You do.
We say, look, this is why we're doing this, right?
Weird.
But
so you explain that to them.
We do give them a heads up.
Yeah,
we do give them a heads up. But the idea is that somebody, right? So now, what happens? What happens between the time that mom and dad make the will and the time that mom and dad go to their great reward, and how does everything get off track, right? And so how it usually gets off track is somebody's messing around in the kitchen, right? And what that looks like is somebody is adding themselves to bank accounts.
My brother spends a lot of time in the kitchen.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. So when you hear the pots and pans rattling around.
He's getting to be a pretty good
Yeah,
cook.
well, this is what happens. Somebody comes in and cooks the books all right. That's what happens. So what happens is you have a sibling who gets in there and says, look, you know what? I'm going to put myself on, mom and dad's accounts, right? And the story always is, I'm doing it so I can help out mom and dad. I'm doing it so I can just go in, I can pay the bills and do everything, let them know what's going on because they're not paying their bills anymore and they're not paying attention to their account. So they start adding themselves to things. Now, whether they tell you they're doing it or not, it's a different animal. But they start adding themselves to things. And in those situations, we would say, well, you're adding somebody to this account for convenience purposes only. That's how we describe it.
It could be for the right reasons.
Absolutely,
and it could be the right thing to do.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. It could be. But it could also be when mom and dad are not around anymore, that money goes to said joint owner.
It's their money.
That's right. Or we see a lot of these TOD, POD, transfer on death, payable on death, where that account, that brokerage account, that bank account, goes to whoever that named beneficiary is.
Wait a minute. That's not in here.
It's not
That's
in
not
there.
in my probate.
It's not
that
in the
is
probate
not
bucket.
in probate.
No.
Why?
No.
But it's a bank account.
But it has a beneficiary on it.
But it's a broker. It's a non-IRA brokerage account.
But it has a beneficiary on it.
Who's the beneficiary?
Whoever
your sister.
Whoever that sibling is,
That's right.
who decided they were going to put themselves on there. And again, the reason that this becomes a big deal is somebody will say, but I thought mom and dad had a will that left everything to everybody. And the answer is, well, they did.
Everything.
And that's usually where whatever person you're dealing with stops talking.
Yeah.
I don't say anything more than that. And you, as the family member who wants to know what's the what, you have to ask the question. Well, I need to understand, what did mom have in her name before she passed away? Because the family member who just conveniently happened to be on all those accounts isn't going to volunteer that information. They're not going to say, well, mom had 10 CDs for $100,000 each, and I was the co-owner, beneficiary of every one of those CDs, and then when she passed away, they just came to me. Because that's kind of what mom wanted. And of course, mom's not around, so we can't ask mom anymore, right?
Yeah. And
mom may be in the late stages of dementia, and mom doesn't know anything about what's going on, and you've got this sibling who, under the cover of helping mom out, has basically put themselves in the position where all of this money is going to flow to them outside of the probate process, and you are never going to find out about it, or you're not going to be told about it, because there's no obligation to tell you anything.
Yeah, and this also may not be as sinister as like this is starting to sound.
Sure.
Right? It could be just like you're ignorant of kind of how it works, right?
Right,
So
that's
you
right.
think, okay, I'm going to put my name on, because I'm the only one that lives in Connecticut, so I'm going to put my name on mom's account because I'm going to help her with her stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And your siblings may be like, great, go. That's fine. We get it. We understand that she did her will, and there's a retirement and blah blah in the house, and so everything's going to still get split equally, as according to what the will says.
Well, that's the key point right there, right? If the Connecticut sister says, hey guys, I got a bunch of checks to write for you because I was on all these accounts helping mom out, and now that mom's not with us, this money kind of flows through me, and I'm going to follow exactly what mom's wishes were in the will, and so we're going to have the same outcome without having to jump through a bunch of hoops at the probate court. For the most part, nobody cares. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, but doesn't that present? If you're talking about real money, then that could be a problem, right? You could have a gifting problem.
You could. Well, this is why we don't like to do it this way, because you could have a gifting problem.
Right. So if we're talking about $30,000 in a bank account, right?
Right.
So let's say that's, and you're talking about 3 or 4 siblings. That's easy to do.
Yes.
That's easy to do because I'm falling under that gift threshold.
Yes.
And so if I'm the joint owner of the account with my mother, and my mother passes, and I'm like, okay, and mom wanted to split up all the money. All right, we paid all the whatever we needed to pay. Here's the money that's left over. I'm writing checks for everybody, but I'm underneath that the gifting threshold. So there's no gift to report, but technically I'm gifting this money too because it's mine, right? Because I was a joint owner, and then now that the way the joint it works, as now I'm the single owner and I own this money, and you know what I don't have to do? Technically, I don't have to give it to you.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and this is where it could get tricky, right? Because
that's right. That's exactly, and it could get tricky. And somebody could say, "Well, I'm not going to give you. I'm not going to give it to you. I'm not going to give it all to you. I'm not going to. This has to now run through them." And the problem is that you, as the sibling, as mom and dad's kid, you don't have a lot of leverage here. Meaning, there's no, if it goes through the will, then it's crystal clear. The executor has to give you a third of the estate if there's three of you guys, right? If that's what it says. When it has to go through your sibling, you are relying on your sibling's good judgment to say, look, I recognize what was going on here, and this is what we're going to do, and you're going to be in the same exact spot you would have been in, then nobody cares, right? And even if somebody tries to say, well, now I have to write it, I have to give it, and people will get cute like this, and they'll say, look, John, I don't want to run into that gift problem, so I'm going to give it out to you $18,000 at a time. And I know it's 180 grand, so in 10 years' time, I'll have given you the money, but I don't want to be burdened with that gift problem.
I don't want to be burdened with that CD that I put it all in that is in my name that I'm earning.
Yeah, and I'm cashing in. So now there is for the most part, as it stands right now, there is no real gifting issue. All you have to do is file. If you give away more than the $18,000, all you have to do is file a gift tax return. Nobody pays anything. And let's be clear about this. You can give away more than the $18,000.
You can give, and this happens all the time. Like clients are like, oh yeah, I don't want the whole gift and everything. You can give away. This is America. Just to remind you, you can give whatever you want, as much as you want. Like if you own like MetLife Stadium, you could give it to whomever you want.
Yes, you could.
I can give it to you now. Are there tax consequences? Are there tax ramifications? Absolutely.
Maybe.
But maybe not, right? But I can give whatever I want. There is no law that says where the judge or the police are going to come and say, you can't give them that.
$18,001? Stop right there.
Nope.
Stop right there. You can't do that.
Yep.
That's right.
Up against the wall.
So the point is, if that's the scenario where the sibling gets all this money and is supposed to wash through them, and then they turn around and give you the old, well, I'm only limited to the $18,000 because then I got to deal with the feds. You don't have to deal with the feds. Dealing with the feds is filing a piece of paper with the feds. That's it. Nobody pays anything. The person who thinks that they can't give you all of your money because they got to pay something is lying to you. They don't have to pay anything. They
they don't understand how the law works.
That's right.
And they don't understand that as long as I'm underneath the threshold, whether it be the federal or the state threshold of gifting, when it's all said and done, when the estate passes through, when it passes through the final stages of probate, then we're good.
That's right.
They're good, and no one's paying a dime of tax.
That's right.
Yeah.
And look, we live in a tech savvy world, right? So, changing the beneficiary designation on an account is easy to do. When you're sitting around all day long going through mom and dad's finances and you decide, you know what, this account looks like it doesn't have a beneficiary on it. Let's jump online and add one, right? Or let's change the beneficiary on a retirement account, right? Let's jump on and do it. It's not always paperwork.
I don't know my brother's social security number off the top of my head, so I just better put mine down. We'll just put me down.
That'll make it easier. I
know what? I'm here.
Yep.
I can sign.
And he's always out of town, so the address for all the beneficiaries, I'm going to make it me. So all the paperwork comes through me, right? These are the things that you see happening.
His mailbox is way down the end of the. He doesn't. I think he gets his mail once a week.
Yeah, that's right. It's hard. Snows.
Yep.
It's tough to get the mailbox.
Yeah, it's a hill.
Yep. So this is what, when we talk about probate, when we talk about somebody's estate, there's what somebody passes away with, and then there's where it ends up. And again, everybody, you mentioned earlier, everybody thinks the will is the big equalizer, and it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not. And there are a lot of things that can happen to these assets, putting somebody's name on them, changing the beneficiary designations, taking them out, putting them in jointly held accounts, where this money can all kind of dribble away, and then you don't know where it went, and the people who got it are under no obligation to tell you where it went, and then you kind of have to figure out next level stuff like, am I going to get somebody appointed as an executor? Am I going to bring basically a lawsuit to figure out where these monies and where these funds went?
All right, we're going to go take a quick break. I'm going to come back. When we come back, I just want to talk about how this problem is easily solved. And I may know someone in this room who may solve that, like who may nip that in the bud long before it happens. So let's take a quick break. You're listening, watching Money in the Law on My FM 101.3 in the Holliston Hub. Don't go away. We will be right back.
Right back. And we're back. My FM
I'm going to put the shirt up here.
Money in the Law, Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Manafort Financial. You're holding a new T-shirt in your hand there. It looks very nice.
That's the Summer of Love T-shirt.
Yeah, Tom just handed these summer T-shirts to us almost on October 1st, which I love. This is great. Very summery.
Some throwback, yeah.
Yeah, very summery colors here in fall. It's
my
nice.
Chevy Silverado 1977 vintage with the big boom box in it, right?
Yep.
Lovely.
Yep, I think Tom had
I do like the color.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he did.
I mean,
I do like the color.
You pay a lot of money.
Blue matches my eyes.
I understand.
Yep.
Here we go. All day long, right? Yeah.
All day, every day.
All day, every day, right?
All day, every day.
Sometimes you get stuck in the mirror, don't you? Sometimes
I do. Yeah.
You know what? What am I going to see that's better looking than this?
Like a Mykonos sky. So we're talking before the break about how do you sort of keep an eye on how funds are being handled, right? Because there's a lot of ways that people can amend beneficiary designations or amend ownership on an account, and then the things that were supposed to flow through the will that are going to be split, a third, for example, don't happen that way because those things never get to the point where there's a will that needs to be applied to them because they were owned, they were titled in a certain way that makes that a problem.
And the really easy way to avoid all of this problem is when you go to your estate planning meeting with your attorney is to just listen. And listen to what if your attorney's worth a grain of salt, they're going to tell you, hey, they're going to explain to you in third grade English, here's what you're doing. Their first question is, and again, because often I'm asked, can you do wills, do you estate? Are you an attorney? I'm like, no, I play one or I stand next to one on TV, but I don't. But I've seen this show enough where the first thing they're going to say is, what do you want to see? What do you want to have happen?
Right.
What is when it's all said and done, and you're looking down on all this? What is the picture that you want to see when you are walking into your heaven can wait, walking through the pearly gates, about to check into your next location? You look over your right shoulder and say, that is exactly what
everybody's
I want.
happy.
That is exactly what I want.
Everybody's
to see,
happy.
Right?
Yep.
So your attorney will ask you that, and they'll say, "What do you want to see?" And they're going to say, "Well, I want everybody to get everything equal. I want everybody to get equal stuff." And you're like, "Great, we're going to make that happen."
Go ahead.
I'm teeing you up. Don't worry.
I'm waiting.
We're going to make that happen for you. And so now tell me all the things that you want to make everybody to have, right? You want everybody to share equally. Tell me what you got. And then they'll go through everything you have. And then your estate planning attorney will say, here's how you do this. And they will walk you through it.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay. And then before you leave, they're going to say, if any of these things change, for instance, if you decide to put one of your children on a bank account, that is going to change the way this works. That is going to change how this is going to get split up because this no longer is just yours. This now belongs to you and your daughter or you and your son. And they're going to explain to you how these joint accounts work, how these transfer on death accounts work, and how they don't, and how the will, the probate works, and then everything that works outside of it.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways that we try to get people to set things up is we look at your assets on a line, right? And you've got retirement accounts, and you've got IRAs, and you've got 401ks, and you have all those things that handled correctly are going to avoid probate, right? And then you've got real estate, and then you've got taxable assets. All of that should live in your trust. And your trust is the meat and potatoes of how you're going to pass your estate. And it keeps, again, there's a trustee, there's real teeth to the obligations of managing the assets in a trust for certain beneficiaries, right? So you want you want there to be some leverage if somebody's kind of messing around with things, and that the trust and the ability to bring somebody to account for not doing their job as a trustee is one of those things, right? And there's a level of transparency, because if you have a trust and you're the beneficiary, you're entitled to an accounting, you're entitled to understand where everything is. So doing everything through your trust makes it a lot easier. And then what we try to tell people is put one person on the bank accounts, and then that's it. And the idea is that any money that's in the bank account would go to that person, and they're going to do the right thing. They're going to do what we're all talking about. But if they don't, that we kind of limit their damage to whatever's in that bank account. They're not running roughshod over your entire estate plan, playing cutesy with all your beneficiary designations and, getting their hands into all your resources that are supposed to go somewhere. Then they just say, look, I don't care about that. I'm gonna take it all for myself. We hear this all the time.
Yeah, and those are the horror stories, right? Those are where one sibling kind of goes off the rails and is like, all right, I understand that I have kind of control of this. And, it's almost like, I have access where maybe I'm of limited means, but now I have access to mom's $100,000 checking account or passbook savings account, because she's from that era where all they did was save and no one spent any money, and they flipped a nickel over 4 times before they spent it. And, oh, wow, there's money there. I need a new car. I need tires for my car. I need to put a new roof on my house. I need money because my kid needs money because my kid's going to a different school or whatever. And there it is. And
well, and if this is the scenario, those people, they can talk, they can justify anything in their own heads, right?
Right.
The whole idea of, I do need a new car. And you know why I need a new car? Because I spent so much time driving mom and dad around to all their doctor's appointments that really put a hurting on my vehicle. And so they owe me a new car, right? Those
you
tires
talk
that you
yourself
were just
into it.
talking about. I mean, why are those tires worn down? Because I'm running back and forth doing all mom's errands. And so I need that money
clinic
to do that. So that's the thing, right? So they're going to talk themselves into those things. So how you avoid that is you put the right people in place to make decisions for you, and you keep it as clear and as transparent as possible. And again, the trust helps to do that, and you want to make sure that you kind of protect those things. But the other thing that we see all the time is real estate. And the real estate problem is...
You mean you see it like when you look out the window? Because I'm
real
right
estate,
now,
we do see a lot of real estate.
I see a little real estate out there.
Not owned by me. All real estate, we see that. But what happens, and the good thing about real estate is you can see the transaction.
Speaking of real estate, if I own that church right there, not that I would want to get rid of it, but I would convert that into some form of acoustic. We would be able to play live music there. That'd be live music, right?
And then painted first,
right? But then you could right across the green, right? You could do your outdoor live and connect the boat, right?
You call it something.
You're going to block that. You can block that road off right there, easy peasy, right? Because it's an easy get around. Block that off.
Beer garden up front. I like it.
Call your local brewer. Let's make this happen. What are we waiting for? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Give me a number.
So back to real estate. So the nice thing about real estate is if there's a change or some alteration of a deed or something with a piece of property, that's all public. It's all at the you can follow that right at the registry of deeds to see.
Yeah, there's no sneaking that in.
No. Right. How did mom's house all of a sudden get changed into my sibling's house or into my sibling's name? And if something ever happens to mom, that house is going to them. That wasn't what we agreed on. That's not what mom's will says, right? And this always happens in a scenario where somebody says, no, guys, I'm going to move in and I'm going to take care of mom.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm giving up my house, right? Pat me on the back.
I'm giving up my one-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, my studio apartment. That's right. And I'm moving into mom's house.
Yeah.
Now I have the run of the place. I get the backyard. I get the pool. But I'm here to help mom. That's why I'm here.
I'm gonna cut the grass. I'm gonna take care of everything. I'll take care of everything.
It's really gonna make it easy for you guys because I'm here. And what eventually happens is that move somehow morphs into this house somehow supposedly belonging to that kid.
I'm getting mail here. This is what it says. It says that's my address.
This is my home. Yeah. I got stuff everywhere. I'm living here. I'm taking care of mom. If it wasn't for me, mom would have gone to a nursing home. This is effectively my home.
Essentially, save this house.
You guys should just roll over and let me have the house. And forget that mom's will says that it's split a third. Because if I'm not here, I'm homeless. you're throwing me on the street.
Well, that's kind of the one. That's like the far end probably is when, because most people, oftentimes it's not that not that blatant where they're like, oh, this is my house now. What are you gonna like the whole split everything up like you guys especially.
It's not that far off. It's not that you would be anytime somebody rolls in the office and says, so my mother passed away and we have a house, and my first question, who's living in the house?
Yeah.
Inevitably.
Me.
Either, well, it's never that person, right?
No, they're not coming to the lawyer.
That's right,
no.
that's right. But it's usually, well, it's my brother or my sister. Okay, and how long have they been there? And it's never a minute, right?
Nope,
How
10
long
years.
have they been here?
Yeah,
They've been here
5
about
years.
10
Yeah.
years, 15. They moved in after Dad died, right? And the only reason that they didn't live there when Dad was there is because Dad knew their story, and Dad wouldn't let them live there.
Dad's like, no, you're not living here.
Dad's throwing them off the porch.
You live wherever you want.
Take your duffel bag, get off. You can go anywhere you want. You ain't staying here. I'm done.
You don't have to go
Out,
home.
out.
You
Yep.
can't stay here.
And so this is what happens. And then that sibling who has a 1/3 ownership of the house because they're on the will says the house goes to everybody, you literally got to start packing in the dynamite to get them out of there.
Yeah.
You're never going to get them out of there because they have effectively convinced themselves that this is their house.
So right. So we've seen, and you're right, and they've kind of, in their own mind, they're like, well, right, I get it that this house is owned by all of us. However, I've been doing all this work and all this, so I've been kind of logging all these these cheese points for all of these years.
Oh yeah.
And oh, by the way, I don't have $1 million or $2 million to buy you guys out of this, which is really the right thing to do.
Sure.
If in fact we all agreed that, and again, because we're all equal owners of said, if this is how it's drawn up, that this is how we're going to split it. And if I can't afford to buy you out, then what am I going to do?
Right.
Like what? And
And by the way, and even if I agreed and we sold the house, the amount of money that I'm going to get, while probably substantial and maybe the most money I'll ever see in my life, is never going to allow me to replace this living arrangement because I'm living in this 3-bedroom, big bath, swimming pool
in
house.
Hyannis.
And that's right. And so my $280 that I get from the sale of the house, splitting it a whole bunch of kids, is not going to allow me to leverage into the same lifestyle,
right,
which is not cool for me, right? And so this assumes, by the way, that they did not find some way to talk Mom into signing a deed transferring the house to them under the aforementioned, and don't worry, Mom, if something ever happens to you, I'll
make
give
sure
everybody their fair share. Oh, Johnny, what a doll. Thank God you're here. You're the best, and I'll do that. No problem. You promise you're going to take care of your siblings? I will, Mom. Don't worry.
Well, that's a good example, right? So if the house is in a trust and there's 4 beneficiaries on the trust and one of the siblings is living there, and you're like, okay, well, time for you to either buy us out, or we're going to sell the house.
Yeah, fair warning.
Yeah, and then if they say no, I'm not going to do it, then there's legal action,
That's
right?
right.
Then you can sue your brother or your sister, and you can be like, all right,
you can get them evicted and say, look, I want you out.
Right? You can do it the hard way.
That's right.
You can do it the hard way, which is and there's. Eventually, they will leave. They will be forced to leave.
That's right.
Because that's the law.
That's right. You may not be spending Thanksgiving together.
Yeah. Again.
Ever, but you'll get them out.
Yeah. But the other side of that, what you just mentioned, is if they happen to talk to Mom and say, listen, you know what? I understand what the trust says, but we're going to talk to the attorney and we're going to change the deed. We're going to take the house out of trust.
Yep.
And now we're going to put mine and your name on the deed, just so for simplicity purposes, whatever the reason is.
It's so much easier, Mom.
Yeah.
So much easier.
And they do that, and maybe they told. And again, maybe they're the trustee. So this is the part of my question is, how does that happen if you're not the trustee? Well, because your mom's the trustee.
She's alive. She's trustee.
That's the answer, right?
That's right.
So if I'm in
she has the ability to do it.
If I'm in a revocable trust, I can take it out. And now, if you say, hey, dude, you got to get out of the house because it's supposed to get split 4 ways, you can be like, no, this is my house.
No, Mom made a change.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this? Are you sure?
I
thought we talked about this.
This is my house, and we're going to split everything except that my house. We'll split everything else. And I'll even give you guys a little bit more. I'll give you guys can have more of the bank.
Well, and some of them will have the audacity to say, look, the will treats everybody equally, well, the house is different because Mom put me on it, and so I want my third share of all the other stuff, and then I get the house, and you guys are getting stiffed. You're not getting any part of the real estate. And there's not a whole heck of a lot after the fact that you can do about it. Right? We can't ask Mom because she's not around. Right? We can follow the trail because we could see it because the registry of deeds shows house was in a trust. Mom took it out of a trust. She put it in my brother's name, my sister's name. The house went to them. Now she's in it, and they basically did a workaround, and we didn't know what was happening. And now they're completely not willing to play ball and buy us out because they don't have the resources, and we're all getting screwed.
Right, and you could go to the mat on it, and you can say, you can hire, smart attorneys and say, let's maybe see there's a mistake that they made. Maybe Mom wasn't you could prove that she wasn't of sound mind when she did it, and there's ways to try and fight it. But at the end of the day, most of the time, if there's a good lawyer's going to say, there's not a whole lot that we can do.
No,
there's not. I mean, we can try. But there's no guarantee that a probate is going to be like, nah, this is null and void.
We tell everybody it's an uphill battle, right? Because first of all, you have to find a way to prove Mom, who's not here anymore, was not of her right mind.
And that's the kicker,
when
right?
she signed the deed, right? And then you got to figure out whether or not the attorney who did the work, assuming they got an attorney, they might have just done it themselves, right? Yeah. People do that all the time, but you got to assume that the attorney knew that Mom was losing her fastball. And that the witnesses to the documents thought Mom was losing her fastball. So there's a lot of pieces have to connect for that to be successful, and it usually doesn't happen.
Yeah, and so there you are. So now you're stuck, right?
Yep.
So again, this is the like I'm not saying the worst case, but this is a bad scenario. It's a scenario you don't want to find yourself in.
Well, it's a scenario that we unfortunately try to put out there. Because the reason to put it out there, the reason to highlight it, is to allow people to get in front of it, right?
Yep.
And at the first sign of something like this, kind of say, hold on, pump the brakes, what's going on here? Let's make sure we understand what this is going to look like in the end if we let this keep going the way that it's going to go. And we would much rather have it get caught in the beginning before things blow up later because it's a mess after the fact. And give you sort of cues and clues of things that you might want to be on the lookout for. Now, the answer very well, to your point, it's not all negative, the answer very well might be Mom has made the decision that her daughter or her son who is moving into the house and has promised on a stack of Bibles to make sure that she never goes to a nursing home, and in exchange for that commitment has agreed to give them the house because everybody else has a house and moms worry about their kids, right? So they say, look, I want to make sure that a little Susie, a little Johnny isn't homeless, and if she agrees to stay here and take care of me, I'm going to give her the house because it would benefit her the most, and it's my decision to do it, and everybody else has to get on board with it. This could all be on the up and up.
Yeah.
This could absolutely all be on the up and up.
Which, if you're going to do it, that's the way to do it, right? And you say, look, I get it, right? You started your own company. You're a professional athlete, and you are you're a multi. You won the lottery, right? And then your sister is
second employee at Google.
Yeah. So your sister is your sister, and so maybe. Maybe it's okay, and as long as you may be okay with it, you may not be. But if Mom says, "Look, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it," and it's not going to be totally equal, but we'll see. And this is why it's important again to because your estate planning attorney will kind of walk you through the because you may say, look, the house today is worth $500,000 and I have $1 million in my retirement account, right? And I'm 70 years, I just had my 70th birthday, and so she's gonna get the house, and then you guys are gonna split the other two are gonna split the retirement account. And again, this is why having your estate planner to be like, okay, let's just understand what's what and understand kind of the value of what. Like this is a pre-tax money, and how just because the number is the same, it's an apple and an orange of what you're dealing with. So they'll be explain that, and then understanding too that look, probably depending upon how the market, depending upon what you're required to take out of your retirement account, for the rest of your life, depending upon the value of real estate and how your real estate may appreciate, 10 years from now, this may not be the same. This may not be equal. And your mom, and the client may say, okay, I understand that. I want her to get the house because she's living with me. Right. And you guys got to understand, you may not get the same, right?
Yeah.
And and we always like say, our worst case scenario, that house isn't worth $500,000. It's worth $2.5 million
Sure.
when mom passes away.
Yeah.
So understand that she could be like hitting a big ticket here where you guys are splitting, a $300,000 401k.
Well, this happens on the Cape all the time, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, right? Post-COVID, all those Cape properties exploded in value. And that little, cottage down the Cape that wasn't worth all that much, and everybody kind of liked it, and it was worth $1.25, $1.75. Now is worth $500,000, and everybody's going, wait a minute, I don't really care about the Cape, but I do care about the money.
Yeah.
You could have the Cape house, just write me a check.
Bathroom's too
That's
small
right. That's
anyway,
right.
yeah.
Yep. But now it's $500,000. It's a different story.
Yeah.
This is exactly right. So if your plan is not everything to everybody equally, these are the things that you need to start looking for. You need to keep an eye out for, is somebody all of a sudden cozying up on some of these accounts, because those are not going to be part of the big will plan that everybody thinks is supposed to happen. And it's going to create some problems. It's going to create some real problems. And this is what we try to tell people. They come to us after the fact. This is what happens. We get these people after the fact and they say, I know my mother had money. She sold a piece of property. None of it went through her. Her will says everything to everybody. And my sister is telling me that there's nothing to go through the estate. There's nothing going through the estate. And I don't understand
Not even
why.
my stamp collection.
And I don't understand what's supposed to happen here. This is what was happening. Behind the scenes, somebody was tinkering with some of these account titlings to make sure that nothing was left to go through the probate process, and now you're on the outside looking.
Somebody was playing, as I refer to here, probate 3-card Monty.
Yes, they do.
There you go. Follow
Yes, they
the
do.
queen.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
there
That's
you
right.
go.
Cup in the ball.
All right, so that's it. We got to go.
That's it. We gotta run.
All right,
Gotta
great
run.
show. Tommy, once again,
Great
thanks
job. Great
Thanks for
job.
making me look not as big as other guys. No, I'm
Two of them right there.
That's right. That's
Double
it.
XL.
We got
for
XL.
you.
We got
Double
we got
XL.
the big XL.
Yep, that's right.
All right. We'll see everybody next time on Money in the Law. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy this rather particularly awesome weather
the
that
weather's
we've had
unbelievable.
over
Enjoy the
the
run.
last.
Enjoy the run.
It's crazy. All right. So we'll see everybody next time on Money in the Law.
Have a great week.